Welcome to VNfiniti,
the podcast where we talk
and you listen.
We're your hosts, Ashley
and Tori.
This evening, our topic is Veer, allowing others to change direction. We have a guest this evening. We bring to you Sin. Sin is bringing with her experience and background of always being the balance within her circle. Grounding, harmony. Sin. Hi. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Yes, welcome.
On this here podcast where we are discussing Veer.
Okay.
So,
Ashley.
So of course, we're in a national change shortage. And when it comes to veer, of course, you're driving down the street, you veer to the left, veer to the right, turn, change directions, right? So how come we don't allow people to do that in our lives? People do grow. Yeah. So when people grow, how come we're always like, girl, she used to.
Girl.
And
you remember when?
And
oh my God, were you there that time?
How she gonna talk about that when she used to do?
You know she do it too. Like, come on.
Him,
her.
It's because I wonder if it's because we're still in that same place.
Exactly.
We're still in that same place, and it's like we don't want to be there by ourselves,
Perhaps.
Yeah.
So we got left behind.
Right, we got left behind.
Yeah.
We're not growing.
So when everybody else changing directions, we watching them go on to different avenues.
They're splitting off.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's like, who she think
she is?
To grow. To have the
How
nerve
dare
to
you
grow?
be different.
Really?
Yeah.
Mature?
You think it's a part of maturity?
You're maturing? Well, absolutely. I think after people have experiences, their experiences are their lessons. Yeah. They're teaching them. So me personally, I think that once people have these experiences and they now can put themselves in other shoes, they have the ability to empathize with others, then that's when people grow. But for those who are on the outside looking in, they expect people to stay the same. And me too. I'm guilty sometimes of saying myself, I'm the same Tori. I ain't changed.
Right.
This, that, and the third. But I am totally not the same Tori. Like, I evolve every single day. I am always changing. And so, I think we kind of get stuck in some lingo sometimes that may or may not be fitting. And then when we're on the outside looking in, we do the same thing. Yes. You know what I mean? We're like, either she did change or she ain't gonna change. She ain't gonna change. You know what I'm saying? She ain't gonna never change. I think I don't know, she changing. She's not the same, I
seen this quote one day, and it was like, the you that you have built in your mind for me is no longer available.
Hello.
Ooh, I like that.
So, people build expectations of who you're supposed to be. And they're highly disappointed whenever you decide that you want to grow in life, or you actually don't meet their lower standards. Sometimes it may be higher standards, but we don't allow people or give people the space in the room to grow.
Yeah, you're right. And I think also sometimes we can be a little selfish in that the person that you were, I need you to be that for me. I need you to be that way for me.
I'm going to tell you why it's good. Because I just had this conversation with Dwayne. I left a sticky note myself. I was thinking in my own head. For the person who doesn't have the tolerance for me, one, to not be available to you when you need me to be, because you may not be mature enough to understand that right now I need to be available for me.
Right.
Okay, I need to seek within before I can be of service to someone else. And so that is very relevant. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may need someone to be there for you. But at what level are you to understand that person at that point in time may not be available for you right then and right there, and that's hard.
It is,
and that selfish part hits home too. I'm so glad that you say that, because it can be driven by different motives.
Yeah.
Like you can be selfish in the sense of you can have self-esteem problems with yourself. Like, okay, this person can't be better than me. Right. So how are they growing? You know what I mean? Like I have to hold them back in this mindset because I haven't grown myself, or I haven't reached that level myself. I haven't gotten there. So they have to stay within this box that I built for them and not able to grow, because if they grow, that means that I'm not growing.
Exactly.
But it doesn't.
And it doesn't.
Because
you're, you know, we have our own paths and we have our own lanes.
You can't define yourself
by other people. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that is like, I believe that's a reason why people aren't given grace to veer off onto their own paths.
Now, let me ask you this. Because Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them.
You can be who you are and still grow within it.
Yes, you can be who you are and still grow.
Yes.
But in terms of how I feel about you and our relationship moving forward, once you show me who you are, that's going to determine whether or not I have grace enough to forgive and to trust that you're not going to be that person again, that you're going to be this new person whom you're saying you are.
True. But at the same time, you know, if you show me who you are and you're this person over here, that does not change the fact that you can't still grow on a different path.
You can grow all day, every day.
Exactly.
That's true. But in terms of me giving you grace for change, you can be who you gonna be.
But you still have to give that person grace to change on their own path. That's what I'm saying. Like, you still have to give, like, they gonna be who they are on their own path to their own destiny.
And that's it.
And you got to give them their grace. And grace can mean letting them go on that freaking path.
Where so that it no longer interferes with what I'm doing over here. So go ahead on and veer off.
Yeah, veer off.
That's that selfish.
Veer off. Perhaps it is that selfish. But I'm gonna go ahead on and tell you that if I've already been burnt before, it's gonna be a struggle for me to give you that grace, because I know that I'm going to possibly be expecting to be burnt again. So I'm not that person.
But you know what I feel?
I'm gonna tell you that about me.
You know what I feel like that is? That's watching that person go off on that path, expecting them to continue to come back to burn you on that path. Like you got to get.
But it's not even watching. It's me veering off. But it's me giving you grace, and it's me veering off.
But if
so is that okay? So does that mean that if this person changes
direction,
they change direction, they change. There's something in their life that causes them to have a sudden change.
Yes.
Is there an insecurity now about this new, not necessarily new person, but this new path that they've taken? Does that mean that there's an insecurity there that you can't mesh well with this new part of this person? Is there like a small insecurity? Could that be?
Sure. Like I can't say that it wouldn't be. You know what I mean?
Or is it that this is who this person always this is who she always has been, but she's had to be somebody different to be in your space, you know what I'm saying?
To be on the same path.
Could be that too.
Yeah, to be on the same path.
So I wouldn't negate either one of them.
And that's why I guess I definitely understand that I see now that we don't give people.
We do not give people grace.
We don't give grace to change and do their own thing or be who they are supposed to be.
Exactly.
And I know for myself, and you never know until somebody else says something to you. I had past relationship that I was in. And one time I invited him to a luncheon with my coworkers. The next day I got to work, one of my coworkers said, "You know what? You're a totally different person when he was there versus when I've never seen you like that. You were so introverted and just so reserved. Like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? You know, it was one of those conversations. Are you okay? You know, I'm like, what? Really?"
Right? Help.
But I didn't know as time progressed, I didn't find out I was being a different person.
Sure.
Because I felt like I had to
You were suppressing your personality.
Right.
And that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But who didn't give you grace? Did he not give you grace to be who you truly were? Did you yourself not give yourself grace for being who you were?
Because it's the thing.
I think
were your coworkers not giving you grace to actually become this other person? Because maybe you did need to be a little introverted.
I think it was me.
Yeah,
I think it was me because because the person that I was with them is the same person that I am now.
Right.
And so, like, the person I'm with now, he gives me total freedom to be who I am.
So then it wasn't you, right? Mm-hmm. There was a common denominator. Like, you were the common denominator because you are now the same person that you are with your friends, the same person by yourself, and the same person with your man. Yeah. But at that time, there was someone who was affecting how you were presenting yourself. Yeah. And at that point in time, perhaps there was some things about that person that caused you to kind of like, go within. Yeah. And you were calculated with what you were saying and what you were doing and who you were presenting
because he may not have been allowing you that grace to be freely.
And whether it was him or whether it was you within yourself, because you do that too. So I understand how you can think it was you. I'm not saying it was and it wasn't, but I'm saying that you with that person was what was,
Right. And I think, when I think back, it's almost like, it goes this whole topic like we don't give people enough credit or to say you're your own person, and I'm strong enough to be I'm strong enough for myself to be with you. We don't give ourselves enough credit to say, you know what, you do you.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's you do you. Be who you are. We don't do that.
Well, what does that look like? Because you're right. So when you say when that person veered off, then you internalized it and then you made it about you. Like you were asking me, like, were you affected by that person going off and growing? You know what I mean? And so I think my question is, when you are in that place and space where you are not being yourself because you are allowing someone else to be themselves, how does that affect you? How is it encouraging your growth? And how is it encouraging their growth? Or what comes out of that situation when we are being there to support others through their growth? Like, during that time, is there a time where we are suppressing ourselves because we're supporting someone else?
That's definitely. I definitely think it happened. I think it happens. It happens so often, and I don't think we recognize it when we're in that place. Like I
can tell you, I recognized it when I was in a place, because I can tell you for sure that I have been in a situation where I did not say what I needed to say. And I may not have done what I needed to do because I was trying to give someone time to grow at their own pace.
Okay. Yep.
So that they could then go off on their own and release me from the burden of having to support them.
So from an opposite angle, you're saying basically, from not allowing, we've moved along from not allowing people grace to having to sacrifice ourselves in order to give people grace to grow.
To grow.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And that's hard, right?
I actually think, in looking at it in that way, I think it happens as common as not allowing people grace.
I agree.
Right.
Like we allow, like some people we allow too much grace. Yeah. And some people we don't allow grace to grow.
Perhaps.
Or to go off on their own path.
Ourselves. Like sometimes we don't allow ourselves to grow because we put ourselves up on the shelf so that we can be there to support someone else. And I can tell you, I have supported someone over the course of 10 years, but specifically over the past 2 years. And I don't mind talking about it. It was my little sister. And I had to put my own business endeavors on the shelf because I needed to be there in her corner so that I could, help her
get on the right path.
Veer.
Yeah, veer.
Right? She needed to veer from her past so that she could be afforded grace to change. Now, the challenge there for me was I was desperate to see a new person. I was desperate for that because that new person meant that I too could be relieved.
But that goes back to that selfishness.
All day long. Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead on and say I was absolutely selfish because at some point it takes a toll on you.
It does.
You know what I'm saying? Because it affects a lot of dynamics within your life. You know what I'm saying? Now, while my door will likely always be open, don't take that for granted, but my door will likely always be open for her and any other sibling that I can support. But you just have to know what you are sacrificing at that time. You know what I'm saying? Something is going to go on the shelf or on the back burner so that you can be there to push someone, to excel someone.
Something's going to veer for you.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm saying? So that you can support someone else in that change that they need and give them grace to change. Because what I can also say during that time was, people will hold things over your head because of your past experiences.
Yes.
And they're going to be like, oh, I don't know, if you do this, then she's going to do that. And if she does this again, and if she, all these things. And you want to say, no, the hell with that. This person is going to need time to move from this place in their lives to the next place in their lives. Like, everyone deserves that opportunity to grow.
Exactly.
They do. Everybody deserves that opportunity. Not to say everybody wants that opportunity.
Oh,
everybody does,
or not to say everyone's going to take advantage of it.
Right, because sometimes we sacrifice ourselves,
or they may take advantage of it.
Well, no, everybody does not want this change that we see in some people. They don't see in themselves, and it could be that they're complacent in where they are. But if we continue to sacrifice ourselves because we see a change that they don't see, then it's like that's stagnating our opportunity, our grace.
Well, are we seeing their change, or are we seeing their complacency? And we want them to change, but they're not changing.
I think sometimes we see the potential of change.
We see potential of change, but it's not happening.
So at some point, we gotta be like, okay,
it's not in motion.
It's a shortage of change now.
What is it?
It's a shortage of change now.
Yeah.
So so we gotta make sure. So we gotta make sure we're not stunning our growth and change for somebody else.
And staying complacent.
But
talk about that.
But absolutely, like I can tell you for sure, I have put things on the shelf.
Yeah, I think
to allow someone the time and space to get it together.
I think we all do it.
We do it.
Yeah, we do it.
I've
learned my lesson. I have learned from my experience that's not my ministry. That is not for me to try to do that anymore, because for me to just suppress the person who I have always been for almost 20 years. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. Just to uplift somebody else.
Yes,
that's not.
This is like having the opportunity
to build their own path,
to
build their path while your path is not going anywhere.
Right. I'm right here. I'm just sitting here chugging along. Just chugging along. Ain't going nowhere.
She on that treadmill.
Make sure I push you up. I gotta push you up. Or I don't know if I'm pushing you up or if I'm just making you
enabling.
Yeah, I'm enabling you because I gotta make you feel like you're up here when you might be really right here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, you mean like putting someone on a pedestal where they don't really deserve to be?
They need to be on
and giving them your everything, and it's just like pouring into an empty vessel.
Girl, that's another topic. Oh. That's another topic, girl.
Okay. So
we can spend days on that.
Yeah.
We can spend days on that.
So I think it is important to talk about how we can find ourselves in a stagnant place while we are allowing others the grace to grow.
Okay, and I want to, with that, I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. So I've been in positions to where people have changed. They have created their own paths, but people are not necessarily giving them that grace. Like they're not out, and I would even go as far as forgiving. They're not always forgiven. So like that grace may not be extended, and then you have the extra level of that forgiveness not being there as well.
Yeah,
I'm not.
You not?
No, Maya said.
Girl.
No, but you know what?
No. But this is the thing. So that's the point. This is the point of this conversation.
It's the very point.
You're not.
I'm cautious. So I'm moving with.
So I want to go with this. Well, you have, and I've heard this before. I've heard it on several different areas. So you have somebody that has been addicted to whatever drug. Let's say you have a crackhead. People will tell you once a crackhead, always a crackhead, right? We've always heard that. Mm-hmm. But, and this is a big but, and it may not even be a but. Mm-hmm. So let's say that they're a recovering addict. Are they always going to be a recovering addict? Or are they going to be John Blow down the street? You know, would they ever lose that title?
It depends on how they identify themselves.
At what point? And what does that look like?
I think that's a stigma.
What does that identification look like? And I think that's where we need to get to when we're talking about allowing people their own path of grace. Because if you are always, again, holding them to that standard and that look and that Maya Angelou quote in your head, will they be allowed to ever be anything more than that?
But you know what?
Should you get over that?
I think it goes.
Like, what point do you get over it?
I think both what you guys are saying it goes hand in hand because
story,
right? And see, and I think if they continue to say, if they continue to say I'm a recovering, then that's what I'm going to continue to look at you as.
But that may just benefit them to present themselves as a recovering addict because I have this experience that I carry with me. Thus far, I have weight here. I can speak on this. I can tell you how I might be able to assist you through your path, or how I might be able to support you through your path, or why I feel like, my input is relevant on this topic because I've had this experience. So it just depends on what that individual identifies themselves as.
But if you tell me that you're recovering and I'm not accepting that, and I'm going like, oh no, you a crackhead. You ain't recovering from that. That's different. I'm like, no, girl, you ain't recovering from nothing.
That's why I think we get stuck.
And that's the person that's not changing. Right?
And that's why I think we get stuck. As a society, I think we get stuck in that mode. Like, yeah, you're a recovering addict, but I remember when, girl, you was behind that alley, in that alley trying to get your last dime.
You ain't better than me.
Yeah.
You ain't better
than
me.
Yeah, I think we get stuck, and it's not just there on the whole drug thing. I think we get stuck there in a relationship way. Like, oh, he cheated on me. And it's not that individual. It ain't even that individual. Sometimes we don't allow other people to grow in extra relationship ways. Like, your ex cheated on you. So now the next one isn't allowed to grow outside of the box that you built around somebody else.
Sure.
Like, oh, now they're okay. So this guy, he got to be cheating on me because he exhibit the same characteristics.
Was a cheater always a cheater?
Yeah. Well, whenever you move on, like if you move on to the next relationship and you've been cheated on or treated badly, you can apply that to abuse situations. You can apply that to infidelity.
Yeah.
You can apply that to a lot of different areas, like a gambler. Like, you could be with a man that was a gambler, and then in the next relationship, he may not be spending y'all money on gambling, but he may be a compulsive shopper. He may be whatever. Or if $5 get missing out of your budget because you done learned your lesson, because you done grew from the relationship, right, and that $5 missing out of y'all account. Oh, girl, he out here, he's spending our money on tickets. Because you're not allowing that person to grow past the views that you have had in previous relationships.
Or you're not allowing yourself to grow.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're not allowing yourself to grow
from that situation.
Yeah.
But did you grow from that situation? Because growing from that situation means that you're not going to apply that same situation to the next.
And I've been there. I've been in relationships to where I have been treated like dirty. I've been in a relationship where I've been treated dirty, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this person took me through this, and I'm never going to get, like, this is what I'm going to do to avoid. I'm going to avoid.
Yeah, but how can you fault the heart for that, though? Like, that's a defense.
Because it's the growth of the heart. We're talking about growing. We're talking about being able to take that extra path along, like that extra mile along your own personal growth path.
But that's the defense mechanism for one. And then for two, in order to grow, you still have to learn from your prior experiences. It's just to not hold the future accountable for your prior experiences. Yeah. But you also have to recognize when you see it again. It doesn't mean that
and I totally agree with that. But what I'm saying is, in your attempt to recognize, you can also veer off of that path of growing. You can veer to the left and be like, you know what, I'm just going to avoid all situations that look like this. And it's going to stunt your growth. It's going to stunt your moving forward. It's going to stunt all of that.
Because you might have other people, in your ear who knew about that, had that dirty relationship. Girl, I don't know. They'll try to because they don't want you to. They don't want you to get this good. They don't want you to get this good relationship.
Girl, I don't know.
They like you when you was in his marriage.
This sounds like Ray.
Just like I have to say, and I'm telling you, forgive me now that I'm in this podcast. Forgive me, but I love. When Mary J. Blige was depressed, I loved her music. That's how we are. I didn't want her to do nothing other than
when you ain't giving no man
what's the 411? I'm like, what's the 411, Mary? That's what I need all the time.
It's some therapeutic music.
Yeah, so that's it's the same concept. Yeah,
sure thing.
Yeah, you get stuck in that.
Yeah,
we can. And so, and it's important to recognize it. It's hard, but it's important.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're also talking about experiences of pain. So you have to give your time. You have to give yourself time to grieve through it, to learn, and then to decide how you're going to move forward. So that's a whole process in itself. So when you're talking about growing and giving others change and being able to forgive and all these other things, you also have to talk about that whole experience of trauma. You had the trauma. You're now going through the stages of trauma, and now you're overcoming the trauma, and you're growing. You've healed, and now you're growing, and now you're ready to approach the next situation.
So, great conversation, ladies, and I really appreciate it. I really wanted to just a question of, what do you say to people who get stuck? What do you say to people who don't allow that grace, who don't allow those changes and that growth to happen? Because I'm often confronted with or know people that that are sitting somewhere judging, for lack of better words, judging someone based off of who they used to be and not who they're trying to become. And what do you say to allow that grace? I come out straightforward and be like, hey, you gotta allow people to grow.
To me, at that point, you need to really take inventory of the people that you have around you.
Take inventory and an assessment and determine if you want these people in your space or not. Because are they benefiting you?
If anybody says anything negative toward your growth, they mean they mean good anyway. So they need to be eliminated, or you need to just keep them far off you.
And I think that goes for family too. Family especially.
Yes, family especially.
Because they're kind of the worst at it.
Yes.
They are the worst at it.
They will hold you down.
You have to fast from certain people.
You do.
In certain situations, you really do have to fast from certain things. And the thing about it
is, growth in itself takes time. There are small milestones and there are huge milestones. And so let's just assume that we all have small milestones on a daily basis.
On that path, veering down that path.
But at the same time, if I am going through something and I need time, and I'm not allowing myself that time, and I'm not isolating myself from that person who also needs time and the opportunity to grow and change, then we may constantly be in conflict. That may constantly be a thing because we keep opening wounds, or we're struggling with communication. There are a number of things that can be happening that where we're not benefiting each other. So time soothes all. Yep. Time is a healer. We may need to give each other time. I need my space. You need your space. And we sometimes need that because sometimes people will suppress, as we said, they will suppress you. So while you think you are in the process of growing, sometimes we don't know how to keep our mouth shut when we think we're growing. And we tell all our business when we think we're growing. And then someone gets to come back and say, well, you said you was going to, and then you didn't. But you said you was going to do this by this time, but you didn't. And now we're opening up another wound. Now I feel some kind of way. You don't call me out. You don't trust me. You don't believe me. You don't see my potential. All these things. So I think allowing each other time.
But you know what? Time can be grace.
Time can be grace.
Yeah.
Time is grace.
Yes.
That's what time is.
Yes.
Allowing each other time and grace to grow. But that doesn't mean that we can constantly be in contact and interaction
and that's where those
with each other. Right. But we're not always allotted that.
Yeah. You're right about that.
So especially when you talk about family,
you have to take that time. You have to just take control of that.
But you have to figure out how to go within, because if you're there with that person, if it took 20 years, when within that 20 years did you have time? It took
you're right.
that 20 years for you to be like, oh, the hell with it. I can't. You know what I mean? But that's 20 years.
Yeah.
So at what point within those 20 years did you allow yourself that space time, that space and time and grace? So what are we talking about here? Like, there's a lot that goes into that, and that's hard. So then we might actually be talking about, just can't always separate.
Yeah, sometimes that left or right isn't. Sometimes you can't veer.
Sometimes you can't veer.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's your kids. Sometimes it's your parents. Sometimes it's your significant other. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, sometimes you can't veer off of that path. So what do you do when you can't veer to the right or to the left in order to grow, or in order to change, in order to allow people to change, or allow yourself to change?
That's where communication comes in. You got to communicate and just let you know. It's not that everybody has a certain growth in their life. Everybody does, because we grow in our professional lives, our personal lives, and you always evolving in some way. So it's not about you. I just need to take time for me.
That's it. But you
have to create that time.
And that path. Yeah. But you're saying that that we don't have time and space to veer. But I mean, sometimes we're not afforded to veer. But no, we have to
create.
Yeah, we have to create the path.
You end up changing together.
Yeah,
you end up changing together because you're able to communicate with each other.
Well, whether in the same direction or in the opposite direction.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you might I'm like, dang, you know what?
This ain't going nowhere.
Big dad.
Yeah.
Let's just
I
love
can't wait to see. I can't wait to see.
Love
you. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you help me get my things?
Yeah.
Marty, like that.
No ride's coming.
Uber's here.
My U-Haul's here.
It was nice. Well, I think this is a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate Sin coming in and dropping her gems.
Thank you, Sin.
And her
Thank you for your balance.
Yes, and her experience definitely brought a different perspective, being in different life situations, and actually having moments where you have taken dramatic veers to the left or to the right. Sure. If you want to hear more, continue to tune in to the podcast where we talk
and you listen.
Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to subscribe and like us on Twitter as well as Instagram, yeah.
And subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
That was her veering way to the left.
Way.